My name is Elvira de Mejia, a professor in food science and human nutrition, the director of the Division of Nutritional Sciences, and a presidential fellow at the University of Illinois System. Welcome to the first symposium of the I-MMAS initiative, the University of Illinois System Mexican and Mexican-American Student Initiative. I-MMAS vision is to promote a more extensive network of Mexican and Mexican-American scholars at the University of Illinois System, with synergistic opportunities for research, professional development, and student support, while fostering a more equitable workforce of well-educated professionals capable of succeeding in life and providing solutions to pressing challenges in Illinois, in Mexico, and around the world. I-MMAS wants to highlight the importance and the potential of collaborations of the UI system and Mexican institutions for the development of Mexico and the United States of America. I thank President Dr. Tim Kaine for his support, leadership, and enthusiasm, recognizing the need and the opportunity that I-MMAS presents. I feel proud to be part of this first I-MMAS Symposium on Food and Health, with the participation of the academic and private sectors from the state of Jalisco, Mexico, and the US. The objective of this symposium is to promote strategic associations between academia and industry from Jalisco, Mexico, and Illinois, and obtain information on the educational and research opportunities among our institutions. Welcome to all of you. Now, it is my privilege to introduce the 20th president of the University of Illinois, Dr. Timothy L. Kaine.
Thank you, Elvira, and good morning, everybody. Buenos días. Lo siento tanto que no pueda estar con ustedes para el simposio virtual de hoy, nuestro primer evento de I-MMAS y el kickoff de una nueva y emocionante iniciativa lanzada a principios de este año para ayudar a liderar las próximas olas de progreso en Illinois y México. I was overwhelmed with the extraordinary interest that I-MMAS's inaugural symposium attracted. Top researchers from world-class universities and leaders in both industry and government from both sides of the border our nations share. It is exactly the response we hoped for every step of the way as this initiative was being developed. You see, you are the heart and soul of I-MMAS. And I prefer saying it I-MMAS to I-MMAS. Siempre hay más que hacer, no? You are the engine that will propel it to its life-changing goals. Global partnerships like this one that bring everyone to the table are the recipe for success in a world where progress and economic growth are increasingly tied to the power of education, discovery, and innovation. They bring together people who share a vision for the future and an understanding of how great universities can take us there through the next generation talent and innovation they supply. I-MMAS is a new path to guide us to that better tomorrow, and you are the fuel that will drive it. You are the broad-based, bilateral, forward-focused network that will give more and more Mexican and Mexican-American students the opportunity to study at the U of I system's 3 best-in-class universities, as well as your own institutions. Those opportunities that will do much more than transform their lives and the lives of their families. It will also lift their communities when they return home and apply the talents and the sense of civic spirit they take with them from our universities in Urbana-Champaign, Chicago, and Springfield. And you are also the world-class research scientists, the industry executives, and the government leaders who will come together to collaborate across disciplines, tackling real-life problems and forging real-life world solutions. That important second prong of I-MMAS's mission, discovery and innovation, is what brings us here today. You will take a dive into two issues critical to both of our nations and to our growing world, that is food and health. They have never been more important or more timely as we finally begin emerging from the worst of a long, deadly global pandemic and look forward towards ways to prevent any future repeat of the devastation it has caused and is causing. The seeds for solutions to those challenges and others can be planted here at I-MMAS's first ever symposium. It has brought together the best of the best from Illinois and Jalisco, top researchers from top universities, industry leaders with real-world experience, insights, and ideas, and government officials whose policies and support help shape the future. Working together, there is no limit to what we can do to help people live longer and healthier lives and to feed an ever-growing world. And we have no intention of stopping there. More symposiums like this one are in the pipeline and will target other crucial challenges we share, such as water quality, the environment, and social issues such as equity, justice, and bridging the gaps between the haves and the have-nots in society. I am grateful to Elvira for sharing her talents to help build I-MMAS and to guide it forward. And I also want to thank the leadership of the institutions that helped organize today's symposium. El Instituto Tecnológico de Monterrey, el Consejo Nacional de Ciencia y Tecnología, also known as CONACYT, el Centro de Investigación y Asistencia en Tecnología y Diseño del Estado de Jalisco, and the government of the state of Jalisco. And my thanks again to all of you for joining us today to unlock the vast promise that I-MMAS truly holds for people across our two great nations.
Diet plays an important role in the severity and lethality of this disease. For this reason, the development of ingredients and functional foods aim to improve the immune system and to prevent or work as adjuvants in the treatment of non-communicable diseases is critical to decrease the severity of this disease. As scientists working in academia or industry, we have a lot of work to do, developing healthy food alternatives in response to these new challenges. Today, we have internationally recognized food science and nutrition speakers who will share some of their more exciting discoveries and experience now facing the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as food industry representatives who will share some strategies that the food industry is taking to develop functional foods and innovate in this COVID-19 reality. One of our goals today is to promote study opportunities, encourage research collaboration, and share information related to funding sources among CIATEC, Tecnológico de Monterrey, State of Jalisco, and the University of Illinois system. In addition, this meeting seeks to create common space for scientists and industry representatives where they can share their work and their needs. We believe that this effort could have a synergistic effect, boosting our individual capacities in education and research among institutions of Jalisco and the University of Illinois system. We also believe that these activities aim to promote health in the population will positively impact society, making our states and our countries better places to live. Thank you all for joining us today. Now we have Dr. Eugenia Lugo, Director of CIATEC Research Center, as a speaker. Welcome, Dr. Lugo.
Well, I'm the Dean of the Western Region from the School of Engineering and Science. Unfortunately, I'm not in the field of health and food, but I am in the field of robotics and electronics. So anyway, my heart is with the University of Illinois, and thank you very much for the ISATEC, CONACYT, and obviously for the Tecnológico de Monterrey for doing this symposium. I really think that the I-MMAS symposium will be very, very productive, and I'm really confident that we will do very good job in the future with this. Carolina and Tomas told me that it was very important to show some specific things about the Tecnológico de Monterrey. So I will take a couple of minutes to show you this. But first of all, well, this is my family. This is me with my daughter and my son. My son born to Urbana when I was doing my postdoc at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. So that's why I'm really confident that we can do something very good and special with you. In 1999, I joined the Computer Science Department and Beckman Institute at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign as a postdoctoral research associate with David Creeman, with Professor David Creeman. Now he is at the University of San Diego in a tactical mobile robot project with DARPA. So I'm not in the food industry. I'm not in the health industry. I was with the bad guys, but we will do a very good job. In 2002, we had a financing joint project between the University of Illinois and the Tecnológico de Monterrey with Professor Seth Hutchinson. He's an emeritus professor from the Computer Science Department and Electrical Department, if I remember well, and also Professor David Kriegman. But let me tell you something about the Tecnológico de Monterrey, because this, I think, is very important. Tecnológico de Monterrey, well, is a private non-profit university established in 1943 by a Mexican entrepreneur alumni from MIT. And this is very important because since the beginning, the spirit or the essence of Tecnológico de Monterrey was the entrepreneurial and the relation with the industry. We have a board of trustees of more than 500 top businessmen of Mexico. This is also very important. And we have 26 campuses all around Mexico. We are located, take the Monterrey campus, Guadalajara, we are located in the state of Jalisco. And we have more than 91,000 students from the high school, undergraduate, and graduate level. We have several schools, engineering, business, health, humanities, architecture, government, social science, and education. This is the campus, Guadalajara campus, a very lovely campus. We really hope that at the end of the pandemic, we can do something together here at the campus facilities. We have more than 7,500 students from high school, undergraduate, and graduate level who came from all over Mexico, and we receive annually around 600 university students who came from different countries. So we are a very diversity campus. We launched in 2019 our educational model Tech 21, and this model has something very important. This is a normal curricula from any kind of program in the past, and this is the curricula now from the Tecnológico Monterrey Tech 21 educational model. And something important is that you can see in the green color something that we call subject, and in the orange color we have some blocks that we mentioned, but we have a industry partner working with the students since the beginning of the undergraduate level. So as you can see, during all the semesters that the student pass in the Tec de Monterrey, well, they work with several industry. And for us, it's very important to have key partners as CIATE, as CONACYT, as the University of Illinois, as possible industry partner or university partners to do some collaborative work in order to develop our students. And in semester 6, well, we can have a whole project during the whole semester to develop some key aspects. This is some of the last semester industry partners that we had in collaboration nationwide with several companies that are from the electronic side, as Intel, IBM, or Wiseland. But also we have another who came from, for example, La Huerta from the food industry, to mention some of them. And also Huevo San Juan, who was very popular here in Mexico. A former director from CONACYT said some years ago that TEC de Monterrey is the university with the greatest link in the country, with the industry in the industry, and so we are very glad for that. And thank you for this initiative for the Tecnológico de Monterrey, for Carolina, for Tomás, for Daniel Jacobo for help us, and also thank you very much for the ISATEC and CONACYT to support this this symposium, and really thanks to the University of Illinois system to do this with us. So we are really confident that we can do many things.
Right. Who will moderate the keynote lectures? Welcome, Tomás.
Thank you, Luis, for the presentation. Good morning, everyone. We are in session 2, keynote lecture, with two fantastic speakers, Dr. Taylor Wallace from Think Healthy Group and George Mason University in Virginia, and Dr. Matthew Kuchen from Abbott Company in Ohio. They have 20 minutes plus 5 minutes for question. Please, audience, if you have a question, put it directly in the chat. Okay, first speaker, Dr. Taylor Wallace. Let me introduce something about him. He has a PhD in food science and nutrition. He is a principal and CEO at the Think Healthy Group and professor at George Mason University. He's a senior fellow of different nutrition organizations and journals. He's editor of 7 academic textbooks, author of over 75 articles and book chapters. He is considered as the nation's premier food and nutrition guru, and you can find all information about it in drtaylorwallace.com. Dr. Wallace, welcome. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you for having me.
Okay, let me stop sharing.
For having me. I'm so happy to be here to discuss functional foods. I think it's a really interesting area of research that's really popped up quite quickly. So today I'm going to give you 2 practical examples, guidelines for flavin-threols, and then nutrients and bioactives with potential effects on COVID-19, and I'm going to focus on magnesium. So next slide. Just a few disclosures. I do take some research funds from a few groups, and I think it's always important to disclose your conflicts of interest. All my conflicts of interest can be found on my website, drtaylorwallace.com. Okay, next slide. So the Functional Foods Center defines functional foods as natural or processed foods that contain biologically active compounds which in defined, effective, and non-toxic amounts provide a clinically proven and documented health benefit utilizing specific biomarkers to promote optimal health and reduce risk of chronic/viral diseases and manage their symptoms. The effectiveness of food bioactives depends on different variables such as metabolomics, nutrigenomics, bioavailability, and their stability within the food matrix. For example, the delivery of food components via the oral route is restricted by extreme pH, the mucus layer, the gastrointestinal epithelium, and gastrointestinal enzymes. Functional foods are generated after manufacturing traditional or innovative food products with compounds that change their structural, binding, or interface properties to provide a health benefit. And therefore, it's necessary to define relevant bioavailability, which encompasses both bioactivity and bioavailability when considering functional foods. So over 2,000 years ago, Hippocrates was on the right path when he said, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." And indeed, functional foods are associated with several health benefits, such as, but not limited to, preventing nutrient deficiencies, protecting against disease, and promoting proper growth and development. However, the meaning of a functional food is inconsistent across the globe, and from my stance as a regulatory and policy person in my career, this is quite of concern. The US, Japan, Mexico, the EU, Canada, many countries across the world do not have a single legal definition for a functional food, and this leads to global consequences. The lack of a universally accepted definition has led to unregulated publishing of health claims in some countries, limiting of functional food production in other countries, and mistrust or an unclear sense of what functional foods are among government officials, public health professionals, and the general public. Since functional food emerged in nutrition and food science, other terms such as nutraceuticals, designer foods, medi-foods, and etc. have also appeared, which additionally confuse consumers. And what you're seeing on your slides right now, you'll see that functional foods have been a part of Asian culture for quite some time. In Europe and the United States and Latin America, not so much. There are different regulatory definitions. They fit very loosely in the different regulations across these countries. And therefore, it really creates a regulatory hurdle from, both an international and a domestic standpoint. If you can imagine an international company like a PepsiCo or a Unilever trying to put a product with all different legal definitions and regulatory frameworks in all these various countries, it can become quite cumbersome. So, where are we here? I think we need to go back 2 slides. One more. There we go. So, like I said, there's no universally accepted definition. In the United States, we communicate functional foods through health claims, structure function claims, and nutrient content claims. And you'll see structure function claims are the most popular claims in the United States. From a health claim perspective, structure function claims do not have to be approved by the FDA. Health claims and nutrient content claims do. There are 18 approved health claims in the United States. You might be familiar with a health claim such as calcium and vitamin D help prevent osteoporosis. The equivalent structure function claim would be calcium and vitamin D help to maintain healthy bones. So we're talking about the normal structure and function of the body. Canada has very similar requirements as the US. Okay, next slide. So functional food science will create many opportunities, but its ultimate success on and impact on public health will depend on consumers' appreciation of products. And this is not only subjective to taste and convenience, but also trust and credibility, which is going to bring us to our first case study, clinical guidelines for flavin-3-ols. You can jump forward a slide. One more. There we go. So bioactives have been defined by the National Institutes of Health here in the US as constituents in foods and dietary supplements, other than those needed to meet basic human nutrition needs, which are responsible for changes in health status. So you might be familiar with the flavin-3-ols that are in berries, apples, tea, cocoa, and some other products. Certain classes have substantial evidence to validate the relationship between intake and enhanced health or decrease in risk of disease. And it's important to have a DRI-like process for this. So an expert panel in the US recently proposed a 4-step framework to quantify bioactive intake. And the 4 steps in the decision-making process are here on your screen. First, to characterize the bioactive. Next, to evaluate its safety. Third, to quantify the causal relationship. And then 4, to translate the evidence into an intake statement. Next slide. So this is the process that we're currently undertaking through an Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics working group. It'll be the first time that an authoritative body publishes a reference intake like this in North America for a bioactive compound or class of bioactive compounds. We can characterize this, and USDA has a very robust database. You can see intake in the United States is a little over 200 milligrams per day in adults. We know that intake is lower among Black and Hispanic populations as compared to non-Hispanic white populations in the US. And we know that tea is a major driver of flavin-3-ols, and you can see 4 times the amount of flavonoids and flavin-3-ols in consumers versus non-consumers. Second, we'll evaluate safety. A systematic review, go back one please, thank you. A systematic review of 159 human intervention studies yielded findings consistent with toxicological evidence that concentrated catechin-rich green tea extracts in dietary supplement form resulted in hepatic adverse events. They also result in gastrointestinal irritation. The U.S. Pharmacopoeia found similar findings earlier in 2020, as did EFSA back in 2018. So then we move, next slide, to step number 3. And I should mention on the safety of flavin-3-ols, we only see this in supplement or extract form. When you take foods that include extracts of green tea or cacao, you do not see adverse effects in the more functional food products and in products like tea, but you do with dietary supplements. And so that's a big concern because people think they can just take a supplement and they'll be good to get their requirement. And that happens with many nutrients, but food first is how we should think about things. So our third step, if you could go back one more, sorry, is how do we quantify this causal relation? And we know that flavin-3-ols exert a various number of mechanisms on the body in relation to cardiovascular disease and cardiometabolic function. So they affect markers of inflammation and oxidative stress. They impact insulin and glucose dynamics, capillary permeability and strength, regulators of gene expression, blood lipids, blood pressure, and endothelial function. But as scientists, it's our responsibility to quantify that. Next slide. So we use systematic reviews, and this particular systematic review is being used with our group to look at the actual evidence behind flavin-3-ols and cardiometabolic health. And this published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2019. Next slide. This reviews both prospective cohort studies as well as randomized control trials of biomarkers. And it's very nice to have consistent evidence, right? So if we see that the prospective cohort studies and the nutrition epidemiology show that there is an effect on outcomes of disease such as stroke, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease mortality, and incident coronary heart disease, it makes it a lot more plausible that something's actually happening if we also see effects on the biomarkers in smaller randomized control trials. And some of the ones being looked at in this systematic review are serum lipids, blood pressure, glucose, and insulin dynamics, flow-mediated dilation, and inflammation. You can see the results I've summarized fairly quickly. These are the prospective cohort studies. This is what you see on your screen is the forest plot in relation to all the different outcome states with the prospective cohort studies. You can see after using grade, which is how we evaluate the strength of evidence in standard in systematic reviews, that we found moderate evidence for reduced risk of cardiovascular mortality, coronary heart disease incidence, type 2 diabetes, and stroke. These were all statistically significant, and when you look at the high quality studies, you see an even more intensive effect. This shows you to the right of your screen the biomarkers that were assessed. Among RCTs, flavin-3-all interventions resulted in improvements in both acute and chronic flow-mediated dilation, which is becoming a bigger and bigger marker for cardiovascular disease. And just a 1% change in flow-mediated dilation has been shown to be equivalent to about a 10% reduction in cardiovascular disease risk. So among these biomarkers, if you look at the strength of evidence, looking at the quality of studies, you will see that there was moderate evidence for improved levels of total cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, systolic blood pressure, and blood insulin glucose dynamics. So now our fourth step, which we're currently undertaking as a committee, is to translate this evidence into an intake statement. And that is what we're going to be publishing probably early in 2022 as part of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Working Group. We've been working on this for about a year now, incorporating the evidence. There is also another significant randomized control trial called the Cosmos study, which is looking at 600 milligrams of cocoflavanol intake per day for a number of years. And it's a very large randomized control trial that is going to be used to also inform our recommendations. So moving to case study number 2, we are all familiar with this global pandemic. There's been a lot of talk of functional foods. I'm going to go into a research area of my own, which is with magnesium, which I think is really interesting. Next slide. Magnesium is the fourth most abundant cation and the second most abundant intracellular cation in the human body. It's involved as a cofactor and or activator in greater than 600 enzymatic reactions in the body. And this includes those enzymatic reactions that are involved with the exaggerated immune and inflammatory response exhibited by COVID-19 patients. You can see a few of those examples on your screen. In the serum, about 32% of magnesium is bound to the protein albumin, and about 55% is in the free ionized cation form, or what we call ionized magnesium, which is the more bioactive form. We also know that about 48% of the US population has been shown to consume less than the daily requirement of magnesium in foods. And this is partially due to processing of food, lower consumption of whole grains, fruits and vegetables, and a greater consumption of fast food and foods with low magnesium content. Next slide, please. So why might magnesium impact COVID-19? Well, there's several reasons that I'm going to run through quickly with you all. Magnesium has a known calcium channel blocking effect. And as I will preach through this portion of the lecture, calcium inside the cell is very, very important for viral replication. If you don't have enough calcium, viruses can't replicate inside the cell. Magnesium and calcium, as you see on your screen to the right, compete to get inside the cell, and magnesium has that calcium channel blocking effect. This limits NF-kappa B activation, cytokine production, and systemic inflammation, which I'm going to show you in the next few screens. The hallmark downstream effect of NF-kappa B activation is production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. You might have seen IL-6. It's a very common drug target for COVID-19 treatments that is being looked at, as well as CRP. Short-term exposure to magnesium sulfate has been shown to effectively reduce the frequency of monocytes producing TNF-alpha and IL-6 under constructive and toll-like receptor stimulated conditions, decreasing cytokine gene and protein expression. And you'll see a lot with COVID-19. We know a lot mechanistically about what happens with nutrients in the body. Right now, we don't necessarily have the large randomized control trials like we do with flavin-3-alls to make public health, recommendations, but in this case, I think you'll see that magnesium has quite a neat story. Next slide, please. So like I said, calcium, in viral infections, calcium is essential for virus structural formation, entry, gene expression, virion maturation, and release. So the more calcium you can restrict from going in the cell, the better in relation to viral replication and virulence. In vitro and animal models infected with COVID-19 demonstrate that the SARS-CoV-E gene encodes a small transmembrane protein with ion channel activity that is highly synthesized during infection and that is mainly localized in the Golgi apparatus and endoplasmic reticulum Golgi apparatus intermediate compartment. These ion channels are permeable to calcium, and it was demonstrated that calcium homeostasis alteration in the cell could promote activation of inflammatory pathways leading to increased levels of different cytokines linked with lung cell damage in COVID-19. So we've got this from a cell mechanistic standpoint, still needs to be validated in human trials. Given the high similarity between SARS-CoV-2 and the SARS-CoV genomes, and you can think about SARS-CoV-1 as MERS, that appeared in 2012. It's likely that the mechanisms could be the same. They're very similar when it comes to their genomics. Next slide. This is a really interesting study that brings us more from a human standpoint. If you look in the red, you'll see patients with COVID-19, and in green, you'll see patients without COVID-19. And this is retrospective, data. But if you look at this, it's interesting because you see an alteration of calcium homeostasis in the blood. And this could be due to low magnesium status. We see that patients, as I'll discuss, with hypokalemia, a lot of them also have hypomagnesemia, so there's not enough magnesium. So you'll see calcium levels in the blood decrease because likely that calcium is going into the cell to feed that viral replication. Next slide. As a nutrition person, I love teaching about the renin-angiotensin system. Angiotensin II, which is converted to angiotensin 1 through 7 by the ACE2 enzyme. Remember, ACE2 is the receptor for SARS-CoV-2. Angiotensin II is enhanced by magnesium deficiency. It's also enhanced when that ACE2 enzyme is bound during COVID. Angiotensin II is a potent vasoconstrictor and growth factor, which has been suggested to be mediated by an increase in intracellular calcium. And of course, because of that calcium channel blocking effect, magnesium may decrease the intracellular calcium. I've highlighted on your screen some other areas where magnesium has been shown to directly impact the renin-angiotensin system. So it's not necessarily just about the ACE2 enzyme or, down regulating ROS enzymes, which downplays a lot of the inflammatory cytokines, but more upstream in the renin-angiotensin system. You'll see where I have the little magnesium green circles on your screen, that magnesium can affect the renin-angiotensin system quite substantially in a number of different ways. Next slide. So intracellular angiotensin II is enhanced during magnesium deficiency. We know this from cardiovascular disease studies. It's a potent vasoconstrictor, which I've already said. Regulation of renal potassium loss. Hypokalemia is highly prevalent in over 90% of COVID-19 patients, and we're doing an ICU study currently where you see this. Half of the patients in the clinical setting that have hypokalemia, especially in the ICU setting, also have hypomagnesemia. Although serum levels can stay constant because it's homeostatically regulated, you do see hypomagnesemia with the ionized magnesium, which is the free bioavailable form. This produces renal potassium wasting. You see low magnesium impairs the sodium potassium ATPase pump, and deficiency really aggravates hypokalemia. In fact, a lot of medical doctors and people in the medical community don't realize that to adequately replete potassium, you first have to adequately replete magnesium. So next slide, please. There's a lot of talk about vitamin D, and I've shown on your screen some of the data. You've probably seen that famous systematic review that showed 800 IU per day that gets you up to that 20 or 25, greater than 25 nanomoles per liter of serum hydroxy vitamin D, 25 OHD is really the sweet spot for it. And you see a lot of data coming around the world looking at vitamin D status. Next slide. But magnesium activates vitamin D and enhances its function in several ways. And several steps in vitamin D metabolism are dependent on magnesium, such as binding of vitamin D to vitamin D binding proteins that are all throughout your body. The synthesis of 25 hydroxy vitamin D, synthesis of 125 hydroxy vitamin D, synthesis of 25 hydroxylase, and then activation of vitamin D receptors, which are very important for regulating immune function and inflammatory function throughout your body. Okay, next slide. And so the final points on this is, I give some recommendations around, individuals with COVID-19. And this is taken from cardiovascular disease patients. We know a lot about inflammation in cardiovascular disease patients with low magnesium, and that renin-angiotensin system and calcium channel blocking effect all come into play here as well as vitamin D. Next slide. I wrote a paper that summarized this, and I'll give you all the references. I'm actually in the process of updating that with some new data from the pharmaceutical industry that's more genetic. There's been a lot that's happened with magnesium during the past year, but you can see my full opinion and a list of references with this paper. And with that, that concludes my slides. I know I rushed through that quite quickly. I had a lot of information, but I'm happy to take any questions, and I'm happy to share my slides and references with you all after the presentation. And I thank again the Dr. De Mejia and the planning committee for having me here today.
Speaker, Dr. Matthew Kuchen. I'm going to introduce him. He has a PhD in nutritional science at the University of Illinois. He has worked at Abbott company for 25 years. He is exploring the role of nutrients in brain development in the infant and the cognitive decline in the elderly. He has an extensive research experience conducting more than 30 clinical trials and a lot of publication, book chapter, and patents. Thank you very much for coming, Doctor. Are you ready?
We'll put it in presentation mode.
Okay.
Okay, presentation mode doesn't seem to be working yet. Here we go. Now you can see it well?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your nice introduction. And Elvira, thank you very much for your invitation for me to present. I'm going to present kind of an overview of Abbott first. It's a very large company, so I'd like to give you an appreciation for how it's organized. And then I will go through very quickly Abbott Nutrition, which is one of several divisions of Abbott Labs. And then I will quickly go through some nutrition science roles and discuss what those roles do at our place and the characteristics that I see of people who do well in those kind of roles, to give everyone an appreciation for how a company like Abbott Nutrition works and what sort of roles are available. And then at the end, I will talk about Abbott's products and their roles in COVID. And then finally, I'll talk about future directions. So let's make sure that my navigation works. Okay, here we go. Very good. So on this slide, I just showed that that the overall company Abbott has brought many products that that you may recognize to the market, ranging from pharmaceuticals on the left-hand side for treatment of hypothyroidism and thyroid cancer, to Depakote, which is used for treating seizures and bipolar disease, all the way to, on the far right-hand side, analytical instruments that are used in very high throughput laboratories to analyze many analytes on each blood sample or biologic sample at an astoundingly high rate, all the way to the division where I work, where we make nutritional products, ranging from the Similac family of products for infants, both healthy term infants, but also preterm infants. These are babies that have extremely severe nutritional requirements. To Pedialyte, which is a rehydration formula. I use it every day when I ride my bicycle in the hot weather. It's a wonderful product to ensure for the elderly. Unfortunately, I left the picture of Pediasure off. Pediasure is a product for children who have who are in the very low growth percentile and have high nutrient requirements for catching up on growth. And then we have Zone Perfect bars as well. And then more recently, the company of Abbott has really innovated so many new products into the market. For example, in the center, just underneath the heading, this is a picture of the doctor's office point of care COVID testing machine. Also, just below to the left, you can see Humira, which many of you may have seen advertised on the television, and you may have noticed that it's from a company called AbbVie. AbbVie was, I think in 2012, spun off of Abbott, but Humira was developed by Abbott when before the spinoff. And this is used for conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, plaque psoriasis, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. This is one of the most successful drugs ever marketed. Also, the Science V product in the lower left-hand corner, this is a drug-eluting stent for vascular disease. To the Freestyle Lite, which is a glucose testing monitor for diabetics, and even more recently, people will recognize the name Freestyle, where we now have the patches which you can put on your arm, and then you can pass your cell phone over the patch and you can see all of your readings, your blood glucose readings. To the very cool device right next to the glucose monitor, which is a point of care testing device, which means this can be used on someone who is injured on the street or in the emergency room. This is an incredible machine. It's almost like the old show Star Trek. If any of you know what Star Trek science fiction movie or show was, this product can be used on very small biologic samples to test blood gases, electrolytes, metabolites, and even more recently for to test markers for brain damage during a traumatic brain injury. Super cool science. And then on the right, you can see that recently Abbott Nutrition has innovated Ensure to contain very high levels of protein, because protein intake is often an issue in the elderly. A liquid form of protein is much easier to consume. We've made advances in Similac by adding human milk oligosaccharides to support the immune system. And then we've made some innovations in zone bars as well. So now I'm moving to Abbott Nutrition itself. Whereas Abbott Labs as a whole employs about 7,000 scientists, if you can imagine that. Globally, it's a huge number. Abbott Nutrition, we have about 700, which is still a very large number. We're headquartered in Columbus. So Taylor, I saw, went to Ohio State University, same place, same city, just opposite sides of the same city. We have research centers in Europe, in the very picturesque town of Granada, Spain. We all fight for the opportunity to travel to Granada. It's such a beautiful place, and the food and the scenery and history are amazing. We also have a center in Ireland. We have a research center in Singapore and also in Shanghai. And then we have our largest research center here in Columbus. And just like our customers, the babies, elderly, and the children in between, R&D today is a really diverse and cross-functional environment. And by diverse, I mean in terms of thinking patterns, as you'll see later in my presentation, but also increasingly diverse with respect to race and gender, which I've seen all. I've worked when it wasn't that way, and I've worked when the company is this way, and this kind of diversity is amazing, enriching, and it makes you happy every day because we're allowed to work with people who have very different perspectives. This is what it takes to make really good innovations and good products for our consumers. So on the pediatric, so our business, as I kind of mentioned on the previous slide, covers everyone from premature infants in the NICU to the elderly who need nutritional support because their diet can no longer keep up with their requirements. Our performance nutrition snacks, you can see Mileplex. We've since this slide was made, we've divested that business. So now we're only in the Zone business. And then we have a long list of nutritional products for the critically ill, ranging from things like ProSure for cancer to Juven, and a whole list of tube feeding products when people are unable to eat because they're in a difficult situation in the hospital. Now I'm going to move to what is Abbott Nutrition R&D like? Well, it's highly diverse. I list the major groups within R&D on this slide: nutrition science, medical, product development, operations, discovery, which is the part which I am in, analytical R&D, and there are so many that it's even funny. When I made this slide, I left some groups off. We even have medical safety and project management, and then in the ensuing slides, I will make some comments about what the people are like in each one of these groups to give you an idea of what sort of scientists that we employ. But first, the pictures on the right-hand side are meant to show that this environment is highly cross-functional. And that the environment has to be highly collaborative. So generally, our scientists, we kind of select for those kind of characteristics because it's so critical to have in order to develop our innovations. It would not be unusual for a scientist to enter a meeting, which would, especially when we get to our launchpad projects, where the team would include representatives from every one of these teams, and even from members from outside of R&D, like marketing, sales, quality assurance. And the one of the things that becomes quite difficult for many of our younger scientists is to understand all of these languages, because each group has their own languages and concerns. And many of these groups do not understand science at the level that we do. So one of the things that challenges most of us is to learn to really simplify the science so that all the team members can understand. So now I go through each one of these groups to give you some idea of what these groups do, but also what it takes to be successful in these teams. But please accept these as generalizations. And in nutrition science, they have multiple roles. One role is to support the, what I call brand support, which is to support the commercial team in all of the ad campaigns and communications we do. And the nutrition science role is to make sure that these communications are technically correct. And the culture at Abbott is really based around a deep pride in not misleading consumers. This is one attribute that Abbott has compared to our competitors, where we are harder on ourselves in terms of communication than the regulations force us to be, because we believe that the worst thing we can do is mislead people on our products, because that then undermines the credibility for everything else we do. This group also does clinical trials, and they do rapid innovation. And by rapid innovation, I mean rapid innovation that has quick turnaround and could reach the market within a year of conception. That usually means that you're using technologies that are already available. The people who do very well in this kind of group are very strong tactically and respectful of rules. And I'll get to rules later when we discuss my role. But also, we need scientists who are very strong collaborators, very good today, very good at multitasking. And not every scientist is great at multitasking. And in industry, it's about being great at multitasking without being stressed, just being calm. And then generally, we like to have very strong nutrition science background, and most of the people we hire into this team are MS or PhD level. And I would say why these are generalizations is, if we look at respectful for rules, I am not respectful of rules, of most rules, except the really important rules. And yet, for the first 8 years of my career, I was in nutrition science. So it doesn't, these things are generalizations and they don't always hold. The medical group is consisted primarily of master students or MDs, and they spend a lot of time at managing key opinion leaders external to Abbott, because we want to be very aware of what doctors are thinking, what people who set policy are thinking, because we want our products meet doctors' needs and also where the community is going. And they also manage presentations and conferences to large congresses of doctors and KOLs globally. For example, that team has presented to over 300,000 doctors this year. So it's really amazing. That team generally has less technical depth in nutrition science, but has a broader knowledge of the conditions that require nutritional therapy and nutritional products. They have to be very strong in collaboration and have strong communication and organizational skills, because you're organizing very large external conferences. If we move then to product development, our company is nothing without our nutrition products, which means most of our innovations start and end with product development. And these are usually master's or PhD students in food science. And these are the guys and women who then make our products, and they oftentimes will design products at the bench scale. And at the end of the innovation, they will be making in our commercial plants batches that are 200,000 pounds or larger. And as you can imagine, there are many challenges with scaling up production from benchtop to this kind of scale in terms of heating, processing, sterilizing, drying, and even mixing in gigantic tubs or tanks. These people are also have to be respectful of rules and processes, because the products that we launch and make have to be safe. If you think about the people we serve, they're the vulnerable people, premature babies, children who have a lot of catch-up growth to do, elderly. And our belief is that we cannot harm a single individual a single one of these vulnerable people. Otherwise, this can destroy our business. But furthermore, as a scientist, this would be more painful than anything. So that's why this group has to follow very well-defined processes. We have an operations group, which are the people which I call detail, process-oriented. For the most part, the opposite of me and the opposite of many nutrition science PhDs. But they are critically important because they run our clinical trials, they monitor our clinical trials, they help people like me manage our budgets, they help people like me finalize our contracts with the university. This is a very detailed process, which I generally don't have patience with, but it's absolutely critical. These are mainly BS or MS students. They generally have less cross-functional exposure, but are fantastic at multitasking. Because, for example, this one poor guy, my team is now currently asking him to negotiate 7 contracts simultaneously with different universities. This poor guy. But he's very calm and he manages it very well because he's oriented, he's very detail-oriented. If we then move to my function, which we call discovery, of course I can say more about this function because this is the function which I've been doing for the last 15 years. We develop the totally new nutrition science technologies, or we identify external opportunities or and then we develop them for our nutritional products. So this is a much longer term undertaking. Most of our innovations from conception to the market will take 5 to 7 years. And it's a very high risk process because many of our ideas will fail because we are trying to generate ideas that are very big and very important to our consumers, but we're trying to identify them early. To be successful in this kind of role, you need to have a very high risk tolerance. You need to like risk. And what I say to people that I interview, your first question has to be why. Why should I do this? Why should it work this way? Why are the data this way? Because without digging and challenging, you can never make great innovations ever. You have to be very strongly committed to what you believe about nutrition science because in a big company, many people will doubt your ideas. So you have to be committed and believe them. You have to be a strong collaborator. And at least for my team, you need to have a very strong and deep nutrition science background. And the discovery platforms are all PhD scientists, all of us. And then there's analytical R&D, which they measure everything. So for them, it's method, detail process. Because again, the methods have to be very precise because we need to know very accurately what we are feeding to preterm babies. We cannot be wrong about what is in our product because if we are wrong, then we can do damage to this precious baby and we cannot do that under any circumstance. These people are generally, will range from bachelor's all the way to PhD and they all have extremely strong analytical backgrounds. Now I'm moving to how Abbott products have played a role in COVID. The nutrition science team made a very quick launch of Ensure with vitamins D, A, and C. And of course, you probably know, if not, then I will say it. Ensure has always included vitamins D, A, and C, because Ensure is a complete nutritional. It meets all of your nutritional requirements. This is an example where the consumer awareness about how Ensure might help them for COVID is not so clear unless nutrition science collaborates with marketing to make a campaign to call attention to the elderly customers that this product will meet all of your vitamin D, A, and C requirements, and these nutrients are all implicated as being important in resistance to COVID. We several years ago launched a product, Similac, as I mentioned earlier, with HMO, and our clinical data show that these HMOs improve the cytokine profile of term babies to be more like that of a breastfed infant. And this, of course, this whole cytokine milieu is quite important in COVID. At the far right-hand side, you'll see the laboratory point of care machine that I mentioned earlier for COVID testing. And I'm sure most of you have probably seen the Abbott name with respect to COVID testing in the news. And then very recently, we launched this Binax Now, which is a home test for COVID testing, which we hope will help students go back to school and be secure in their COVID-free state.
Sorry, doctor, 1 minute left.
Okay, yeah, this is I believe my last slide. Thank you for the warning, Tomas. And then these are areas of future interest. So part of my title was where do future research opportunities lie with Abbott, and here I list the areas, and they range from cognitive function, which is my love, all the way down to muscle and bone and nutrigenomics, which is a quite future target for Abbott. And that's the end of my presentation. Perfect timing, Tomas.
Thank you so much. A quick question for you. What in your opinion, what is the best nutrient or supplement, or the key nutrient or supplement for the immune system in infants?
For immune system, vitamin D is very much in the news. And while it doesn't have the same sort of evidence as things like vitamin E, vitamin C, vitamin A, and the minerals, one of the challenges with vitamin D, of course, is that it's so poorly absorbed. So many North Americans consume low levels of vitamin D. And even if you use extremely high supplements, your blood levels don't change very much. So finding ways, I think, to enhance the bioavailability of vitamin D is really important today and into the future.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kuchen, for your participation and the nice presentation. Thank you. Can you stop sharing?
Yeah, of course, yeah. If I can realize.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I figured it out.
Of Bioengineering in Tecnológico de Monterrey. Welcome, Carolina.
Thank you, Elvira and Tomas. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session that regards an overview of research opportunities for Jalisco and Illinois. Collaborative projects offer many benefits, such as higher impact publications, attraction of funds, expansion of your network, and in general, add to more experiences, techniques, and fruitful discussions. In this session, we will describe research programs existing in Jalisco and Illinois to detail the benefits of a Jalisco-Illinois collaboration, to find similar interests that spark research synergies, to explore starting graduate students and researchers exchange programs, to discuss seed fund possibilities, and ultimately to answer the question of how can we launch joint research programs. I will be moderating this session. Every speaker will have 10 minutes for their talk. I will be timing these sessions, and I will raise my hand when you have 2 minutes left. We will start with Dr. Francisco Medina, who's the General Director of the Research Council of Science and Technology in Jalisco, and we'll talk about research opportunities in Jalisco. He will be followed by Dr. Elvira de Mejia, who's a presidential fellow of the University of Illinois System, and will talk about research and educational opportunities at the University of Illinois System and the I-MMAS initiative. She will be followed by Dr. Naomi Marino, who's a researcher and director of graduate programs from the Research Center Assistance in Technology and Design of Jalisco. And she will talk about research and educational opportunities at CIATEC. And we will finish with Dr. Daniel Jacobo, who's the Division Director of the School of Engineering and Sciences from Tecnológico de Monterrey. And he will talk about research and educational innovation opportunities at Tecnológico de Monterrey. After the talks, we will have time for questions. You can just write them in the chat, and I will just tell the questions to the speakers. Now, please, Dr. Francisco Medina, are you ready for your talk?
Yes, in charge of the Jalisco State Council of Science and Technology. The acronym in Spanish is CUESIJAL, and everybody knows CUESIJAL here in Jalisco. And well, basically, the presentation deals with, it's an overview of research opportunities, and obviously from our side, but taking into account that we have a very close ties, especially culturally, with Illinois. It's the second state in terms of Jalisco citizens in the US by far. And there's a very important Casa Jalisco in Chicago. So there are very close cultural ties, and it's a good opportunity to start with more R&D ties. Next one, please. Basically, we work in terms of 5 large hubs, and I'm going to concentrate only on a part of one of those hubs, which is the Ag Biotech Hub. This is part of our ecosystem. It's unusual for a state in Mexico to have this clarity of mind and to have this amount of information about itself. But I mean, that's a big advantage of Jalisco in general. Well, obviously here we have the talent, which is represented by our universities and research centers. Here are the names of only a few of them, obviously names that you know, like Tec de Monterrey, CIATEC, Autónoma de Guadalajara, ITESO, and the Universidad de Guadalajara. We have 64 programs, bachelor programs with 2,376 graduates and 20 postgrad programs with 87 graduates. So that's already a sizable amount of people. Then we have industry, and I don't know if it has been said before, but Jalisco is the ag giant of Mexico. We represent 12.5% of the agricultural GDP of Mexico, which is a huge number, and we are #1 in the production of several crops and also several animal species. In terms of economic units, just to give you an idea, it's over 13,000. The gross production, that's in million pesos. It's, as I said, it's a huge amount, 12.5% of the total. The added value, which is also very important, is 29%. Over 140,000 employees. And if we put this in dollars, it's 4.8 billion US dollars, our agricultural GDP, and growing. And in terms of R&D and tech transfer, we have CIATEC, which all of you know, CITSIA, which is a food development center at the Universidad Autónoma de Guadalajara. And also we have 378 researchers in this area in the National Researchers System, in the SNAE. You can see in terms of projects, and this is just to give you an overview, because obviously the scope is broader than this, but we are putting a lot of emphasis on value-added ag products. It's not only high-value biomolecules, but we're putting a lot of emphasis on nutraceutics and functional foods. I guess we're probably the only state in Mexico that has, as a priority, functional foods, and is putting such a large effort at funding projects in this particular area. Also, the exploitation of agricultural wastes, that's basically biomaterials development, compound extraction, and waste treatment. We're taking very seriously the UN agenda in terms of the objectives of development. And I think that we're probably one of the few states that is actually doing something about climatic change in Mexico, which is unfortunate. Also, food and crop safety, we have a law. We're also the only state in Mexico that has specific law for food and crop safety. And this is basically phytopathogen control, crop safety, and crop traceability. And we come here in contact with another very strong hub here in Jalisco, which is the IT hub. And then climatic change, crop adaptations, and there are quite a few projects working around pollinators. We're the largest producer of honey in Mexico, and we're probably the largest producer of bees also in Mexico, and there's a huge concern about what's happening to the bees in general. But this just to give you an idea, of 1 year, it was 27 projects in this area. The next, please. And this is just to give you an idea. We have a fund that we established 12 years ago with Alberta, the province of Alberta in Canada. Alberta and Jalisco are sister province state, and we have had this fund going on for a pretty long time, and it's really concentrated on technology development and transfer. Two of the projects that are currently undergoing is the Smart System for E-Agriculture. Once again, this overlap between IT and biotech, and biological treatment of tequila vinasse wastewater using microalgae. Obviously, we are by far the world's largest producer of tequila because tequila was born here in Jalisco, but we're also very concerned about the wastewater, which we call vinasse, which is a huge problem, especially in the rural areas. In terms of dissemination of science, through content development, books and papers, publications, event organization and participation, it's a very large number of events, and CIATEG is one of the main organizers. PRODEPRO, this stands for the Programa de Desarrollo de Prototipos, which is part of PROINJAL, the Program of Innovation of Jalisco. These are ag prototypes development. Then we also have a specific cluster, which is the Jalisco State Forest Cluster, that's working a great deal in this area. And we used to have for the seed, and there's still a current program going on, a project going on, which is a chain of honey production, the ecosystem development in Western Mexico. But these are just to give you an idea. We have, apart from the PROINJAL, which is the innovation program of Jalisco, and a part of FODECIJAL, which is the fund for the scientific development of Jalisco, which are both very active in supporting these initiatives. We also have a new initiative which we're calling From Science to Market. In Spanish, de la ciencia al mercado. Here we're working basically with IP, industrial property, and its patents, utility models, and industrial designs. And this is just to give you an idea of what we've been doing in the ag sector. The amount, 70% of all the projects supported have dealt with patents, and 29 with industrial designs. Next one, please. Here the projects relative to biofood and ag. We have 24% is agriculture, almost 49% is food engineering, and the rest 27% is food technology. Next one, please. These are just 3 examples of companies, because we're very, although we are innovation, science, and technology, we are really very devoted to the development of technology and innovation in industry. And obviously, most of the companies here are small and medium-sized, or even micro companies. This company, Técnica Mineral División Agrícola, it's a 100% Mexican enterprise with 3 divisions. And the patents concerned are of the more recent division, the Ag division, concerning non-metallic minerals for diverse uses and applications. They already have an international scope, 4 invention applications, 2 national patents, and 2 PCTs for the agricultural sector just for the period of 2017 to 2018. And they have over 200 employees, and their inventions are related with organic nutrients and their processes. Next one, please. Then we have New Bauer, which is a company located at the municipality of Zapotiltic, and it's originally dedicated to the production and development of fertilizers. They're also getting support via our invention program, the PROPIN, applying for 10 national patents, which are currently being commercialized directly via internet. So now you see, these are companies that were not originally in the ag business, and they shifted to the ag business, and basically through the protection of their IP. Next one. And finally, El Pesi, which is a chocolate company, not only engages in the chocolate industry, but also performs R&D in new food solutions. They have presence in over 15 countries, and finally, they decided to explore alternatives in tech transfer through patents. Last year, they were supported also by our inventions program with 3 national patents. These technologies are related to formulating products and processes to reduce body fats. So these are just examples. We are open for business, which is unusual to say in Mexico nowadays. We don't count on the federal government. We are totally sort of self-supported at the state level, but we are open for business, and we're open also for possible collaborations with Illinois. We already have a fund with the province of Alberta. We can also establish a fund with the state of Illinois. And normally what happens here is that since this is company oriented, 50% is funded by industry, 25% by the state of Jalisco, and the other 25% would be by our counterpart. So this is an overview, and obviously if you have any questions, I'm happy to assist. Thank you.
Good morning again, and buenos días a todos. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos el día de hoy. La Universidad de Illinois. The University of Illinois system is a recognized global leader in higher education with a rich legacy of achievements in teaching, scholarship, and research for more than 140 years. The system attracts students from more than 100 countries, and Mexico has historically been key in the University of Illinois system's international engagement. The system and its universities have strong ties with leading universities and research institutions in Mexico, including several of the institutions that join us today. There are opportunities to expand research, partnerships, and increase collaboration to address the social, economic, and environmental challenges that our neighboring nations share. Welcome to I-MMAS. The University of Illinois has 24 Nobel Prize winners, and discovery and innovation is happening as we speak. Welcome to I-MMAS. To address these opportunities and challenges, President Tim Kaine launched this year the University of Illinois System Mexico and Mexican American Students Initiative. This important initiative seeks to address social inequalities by providing life-changing educational opportunities for more underrepresented students, and by building large-scale cross-border collaborations to foster innovation that will benefit the people of both Mexico and Illinois. It will work to increase enrollment of both Mexican and Mexican American students, and to promote their success by developing mentoring and support programs. The mission of I-MMAS is to enhance educational, cultural, scientific, technical, and social collaborations among the University of Illinois system, Mexican academic institutions, and Mexican and Mexican American students by building and sustaining a large-scale presence in education and research. So I-MMAS has identified and proposed to start the program with 5 initial key activities. 1, develop a mentoring and extended support program for Mexican and Mexican American students within the University of Illinois system. Here we can see Maribel Barragan. She is a doctoral student in the Division of Nutritional Sciences and very active collaborator of I-MMAS. 2, enhance the recruitment of Mexican and Mexican-American students. This recruitment initiative would create new possibilities for funding, thus expanding research and professional endeavors, while also creating a more diverse environment and fulfilling the educational priorities of both Mexico and the US. Here we can see doctoral student Damian Castañeda. He came from the National Polytechnic Institute, stayed here for 2 years, an outstanding scholar and scientist. 3, establish a University of Illinois system liaison office in Mexico City for recruitment of students and alumni engagement. Strengthen ties with Mexican scholars, academic institutions, and the private sector. 4, create a University of Illinois Mexico research program by expanding research partnerships in collaboration with worldwide class researchers in Mexico and across our 3 universities, Chicago, Urbana-Champaign, and Springfield. 5, partner on key initiatives such as the Discovery Partners Institute with selected higher education institutions in Mexico, like the Tecnológico de Monterrey, the National University of Mexico, the National Polytechnic Institute, CIATEC, and many more that are joining us today in this program. So I-MMAS has a strong team of leaders working with their subgroups. Faculty, students, staff members have been very active collaborating with these leaders in building relations and recruitment in Mexico, building relations and recruitment in the US, mentoring and extending support to all of our Mexican heritage students, and funding, which is key, of course, to move forward with many opportunities. I want to emphasize that many students, undergrad students, grad students have actively participated from the very beginning of this initiative with I-MMAS. I want to highlight doctoral student Anna Mitchell, who was the coordinator of this program since the beginning, and also now master student Regina Cortez, who also participated very active in this initiative. So many students have been actively helping with this team. So Illinois, I-MMAS brings value added to Illinois and Mexico. I-MMAS has the opportunity to build a sustained and large-scale presence of Mexican and Mexican-American students, enhancing interactions between the University of Illinois system and Mexican academic and research institutions and the private sector. Together, it is possible to develop sustainable collaborations with Mexican universities, companies, and the Mexican-American Illinois community to address societal challenges and build a more equitable future, and provide an enhanced support program for our current and future students across the 3 universities, Springfield, Chicago, and Urbana-Champaign, to aid in the successful completion of their higher education while facilitating their future career opportunities. We believe that these initiative efforts, I-MMAS seeks a layered, targeted, and strategic approach that emphasizes building partnerships with Mexican institutions and engaging the Mexican private sector by involving specific industry targets, securing sustainable funding through CONACYT. And here, let me tell you that President Tim Kaine took the initiative several years ago, almost 6 years ago, 5 years ago, signing an agreement of cooperation with CONACYT for 50 PhD students, Mexican students, to come to Illinois to get their degrees. We still have 1 more year with that agreement. So we still have at least 10 more fully funded fellowships for doctoral students in any area of expertise at the University of Illinois. So there are still opportunities to apply to CONACYT for fellowships and come to Illinois to get your very high level degree, PhD degree. And also, of course, we have to target potential Mexican donors, recruiting and sustaining students at all levels, including college and graduate Mexican and Mexican-American students. Contribute to the objective of the University of Illinois system of building human capital by adding value to education while maintaining a clear vision for the future in collaboration with Mexico. In summary, we invite you to join us. We invite you to join this I-MMAS initiative. President Kalin and top executives at the University of Illinois support this effort, and we are very happy to see the response from faculty, staff, and students. So please join us all together, extraordinary, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank for the time given to talk about the CIATEC's postgraduate offer. During these few minutes, I'm going to talk about the Science in Innovation and Technology master's degree and doctorate programs. CIATEC is an investigation center, part of CONACYT's network, and one of our substantive processes is the formation of human resources. And for that goal, we count with postgraduate programs. The program's names are Master and Doctorate in Science and Technology, Master of Clinical Investigation, Master of Science in Floriculture, and Master and Doctorate of Science in Biotechnological Innovation. This time, I will focus in broad or Science in Biotechnology Innovation Master's Degree and Doctorate Programs information. The goal of these are to train high-level human research with a solid scientific technological support and professional ethics that makes them capable of apply and transmit current, academically relevant, and socially knowledge in the topics of generation and application of knowledge of agri-food, biotechnology, industry, medical and pharmaceutical biotechnology, and environmental science, with emphasis on the innovative application of biotechnology to respond national problems for the development of the country. The programs have three terminal options: agri-food biotechnology industry, medical and pharmaceutical biotechnology, and environmental science. Products with more than 20 years of experience in quality training human resources linked to research projects. In the case of the master's program, applicants must meet the following requirements. Applicants to Master of Science in Biotechnological Innovation must have undergraduate students in one of the next focus areas: agricultural, food, health, environment science, or related. Must have the ability to participate in research and technological development projects in the above-mentioned areas. In addition, the applicant must demonstrate critical and analytical thinking skills, command of English, as well as a willingness to teamwork. In order to achieve a solid formation, the graduate of Master of Science in Biotechnological Innovation will have the capacity, ability, and dexterity to carry out innovative technological research and development. In addition, it will grant knowledge to propose efficient strategies and solutions to problems in the areas of agri-food, health, or environment science. which will allow its integration into both the industrial and academic sectors. The master program consists in 4 semesters, 2 obligatory subject matter, a basic stage, 2 select elective subjects, disciplinary stage. At second semester, the specializing experimentation stage begins. It will cover a total of 83 credits. Applicants for Doctorate of Science in Biotechnological Innovation must have master studies in one of the following focus areas: agri-food, health, environment, science, or related, as well as a vocation to carry out basic and applied scientific research. They must demonstrate critical and analytical thinking, ease of oral and written communication in both Spanish and English, initiative, creativity, perseverance skills, as well as entrepreneurial aptitude and willingness to work in a team. The graduates of the Doctorate of Science in Biotechnological Innovation will have a solid scientific and technological training that will allow them to generate frontier knowledge in biotechnology and will be able to apply them in an innovative way in the agri-food, health, or apply them in an innovative or environment areas. They will have skills for self-taught learning, the design, management, and direction of innovative research and development projects, as well as for human resources training. It will be able to protect and transfer the knowledge it generates. You can work in higher education institutions, research centers, and research and development departments of private sectors, companies, or work independently at biotechnology areas. The PhD program consists in 8 semesters, 2 obligatory subjects, basic disciplinary stage, 2 optional subjects, specializing content stage. At second semester, the specializing experimentation stage begins. Starting the 5th semester, they will carry out complementary activities as part of the comprehensive doctoral training stage. It will cover a total of 135 credits. We have 2 calls for admission per year, March and October. Semesters start at February and August. For more information, email this email. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will continue with Dr. Daniel Jacobo.
Research and educational innovation opportunities at Tecnológico de Monterrey. Specifically, I will be focused on Campus Guadalajara, which is a campus that is in Jalisco, and now we are looking for opportunities to collaborate between the University of Illinois and Jalisco and Tec de Monterrey and CIATEC. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about the research focus of Tec de Monterrey Campus Guadalajara, but it is important to let you know that we have many campuses in Mexico. We have more than 20 campuses, and the biggest campus that make research is Campus Guadalajara, Campus Monterrey, Campus Querétaro, and Campus Ciudad de México. So our campus has a very strong research area in the functional foods. So I think that is going to be interesting to look for further collaborations. So talking a little bit about Tec de Monterrey. Tec de Monterrey is the #4 university in Latin America, and is #1 university in Mexico, private universities, according to these university rankings, the Times Higher Education University rankings, and is 155, is in the position 155 according to the QS World University ranking. And from 10 years ago to now, we have moved up 232 places, and it's mainly due to the research area that is being very motivated by our president. They want us to make a lot of research, and they want us to have a lot of collaborations with international institutions, and we are working a lot on increasing our number of publications with very high impact factor, in journals with very high impact factors, to increase our citations, and that's one of the main strategies of our institution. So as I was saying, research, innovation, and entrepreneurship is one of the main differentiating strategies of Tec de Monterrey. And the other one is the Tec 21 educational model. So I'm going to talk about these both differentiating strategies that I think that make us very different from many other institutions here in Mexico. So first, I'm going to talk about our new educational model, the Tec 21. This model is based on the development of competences that for our professionals, and these competences are disciplinaries and personal. We want to develop both of them, and through 4 main pillars. One is challenge-based learning. Most of our courses are based on this type of teaching learning experiences that they have during all their career. During the 4 years, they have different challenges that they have to solve, and through the solution of this challenge, they will develop different competencies, like general ones, like the self-knowledge, like the innovative entrepreneurship, like social intelligence, commitment to ethics and citizenship, reasoning to address complexity, communication, digital transformation, and this plus the disciplinary competencies gives like the whole experience of our students. Another pillar or another important characteristic of our educational model is flexibility in how and where the students can learn. For example, we have different courses, and for one course, they can choose between taking the course completely online or having the course 50% online and 50% in the classroom, and so on. So they have a lot of flexibility in the way they want to learn. And we also want a memorably university experience. Our students has access to very good facilities in our university for doing activities of different than the ones from their profession, like for art, for sports. So we have a lot of very high class facilities in our campus. And another important pillar from the Tec 21 educational model is inspiring professors. All of our professors, or I think that all of them, at least the ones that are working in like assistant professors, associate professor, full professors, all of them have an additional activity other than only teaching. For example, we have professors that are that are like starting startups, also professors that are making research, professors that works very close to the industry. So our professors, in addition to teach, they have a lot of professional activity. So their activity is very inspiring to our students. So these are the 4 pillars of the Tech 21 educational model. I'm going to share a very brief video that summarizes the Tech 21 educational model. So I think that I will stop the sharing and share again because I forgot to share also the song from the computer. Let me. Okay. Here is a summary of our Tech 21 educational model.
We believe that everyone has the potential to change the world. We believe our mission is to free that potential. And we know the Tech 21 model is the best way to achieve it. The Tech 21 model is unique, a pioneer in higher education with the objective of detonating the transforming potential of young people through the development of their competencies. In this model, learning happens between the interaction of the student, the professor, and the environment by facing challenges.
El modelo Tech 21 es una manera diferente de llevar la educación al alumno a través de un reto.
Yo diría que el modelo Tech 21 es vinculado a los contextos, a las realidades, a las personas, a sus problemas reales.
El alumno vaya creando esa sensibilidad de captar y de poder analizar dentro de un mundo de información que ya está, cuál es la que más compete para poder resolver una situación en particular.
Pero algo distintivo en el tipo de reto para el Tecnológico de Monterrey es el tener un socio formador.
Te pones a prueba, o sea, te retas a ti mismo y te convences de que sí puedes y de que tus soluciones aportan algo al mundo.
El poder aplicar esos conocimientos para el beneficio de otras personas es un sentimiento muy padre, la verdad.
This educational model is also flexible. It allows the student to build and personalize his career according to his interests and future plans. Through life, they approach activities that promote balance and healthy lifestyles. To this model, a fundamental piece is the support of our professors that are innovative, close, up-to-date, and linked to the world. With this new model, our alumni will be very sensitive to the needs of their environment. They'll have a systemic vision of the problems and will have the capacity to solve them. They will not only be prepared to get a job, but to create one. After designing and increasingly adopting the model since 2013, starting in 2019, the Tecnológico de Monterrey will have the most innovative curriculums in Mexico. In the past, the value was on what we could know. Today, value lies in learning to learn, on what we can do with what we know. Tecnológico de Monterrey, free your potential for transformation.
Okay, so that that video summarizes our Tech 21 model that I think that Carolina, are you raising your hand?
This is just to tell you that you only have 1 minute left.
Sorry?
It's just to tell you that you only have 1 minute left.
Okay. I'm going to hurry up. So in the model, we are very linked with our environment, and that's also the fundamental of our research strategy in the campus. We are working in establishing an interdisciplinary technology-based entrepreneurship hub, in which we are going to enhance the production of scientific publications, patents, technology transfers, and also technology-based startups. Through this strategy, we want to enhance or increase the projects that are being performed as a pull rather than as a push strategy. What I mean with this is that normally, I think that most researchers, what we do is we have an idea and then we start working in the lab, solving our hypotheses, our objectives, without knowing if what we are going to develop has a practical application or has a specific market. Here in Campus Guadalajara, what we want to do is to, of course, we can support that kind of research, but we want to enhance and we want to have more research in the full strategy, where we take the challenge from the industry and the society, and mainly from the main research areas that we have here in Campus Guadalajara, that is biotechnology for health and foods, medical devices, artificial intelligence, and industry 4.0, and taking from this main research area and the main economic activities from Jalisco, that is agro-industry and health, we want to have the challenges from the industry, from the society, and also make a match with the facilities that we have in our campus, from the researchers, from the students, the infrastructure that we have also, the scientific facilities, research facilities, our PhD students, our master students from the scientific programs. And we want to take this as a support. And also in addition, with the government from Jalisco, that is one of the few states in Mexico that supports science and technology development. And we also have a very good entrepreneurship institute in Tec de Monterrey, Eugenio Garza La Güera Entrepreneurship Institute, that we want to work all of us together to give solutions to the challenges and to increase the impact that science and technology can have in the society. So mainly these are the objectives, or this is what we want to reach in Campus Guadalajara. We want to be focused on solving the industry and social challenge of our region through fundamental and applied research. We want to promote applied research and the maturation of technology to make them ready for transfer. We want to promote the technology-based startups, and also we want to increase the transfer of technology to the industry, following this strategy of working more from the needs, from the challenge of the society, and from the challenge of the industry, rather than making applied research that probably won't have any application in the future. So this is in summary what we do. This is